CD, so we'll get to hear it. It's pretty dissonant sounding. Now, keep in mind these ideas that Debussy is experimenting with, they're not really related to each other, they're just ideas he experimented with. So, page 374, another idea, a pentatonic scale. This may seem like we're going the opposite direction, but the pentatonic scale is a 5-note scale that has no half steps in it. So, a lot of folk songs written pentatonic. What you basically can do is take a scale that has the half steps and just remove the notes that create the half steps. So take out T and Fa. With the half steps. Good way to remember the formula for a pentatonic scale, the black keys on the piano. With a pentatonic scale, anybody who's taken my guitar class, the intermediate guitar knows that there are no wrong notes with a pentatonic scale. So if you're improvising with major or minor, you have to know what the chords are, because if you're playing a leading tone against a tonic triad, it's not going to sound good, or a tonic note against a dominant triad, it's not going to sound good. But anyone who has never played piano before can look up here. If you just randomly play black keys, you can make a soundtrack. Doesn't that sound nice and gentle? Doesn't it? I'm just randomly, you spread them out nice and wide.
Get a jump up.
There are no wrong notes, and you can just kind of wander up and down, put the pedal down and let everything ring out. I believe, yes, we have an example on the CD where, in fact, if you look at this bottom of page 374, Debussy Preludes Book 1, number 2, if you look at the key signature, D flat major, Debussy has this entire piece being played on the black keys. So that's how he wrote it. He wrote it by experimenting with just the black keys. Let's see, 375, the medieval modes. Okay, we talked about the medieval mode. Used infrequently since about 1650. Kind of like the catapult. Haven't used it much lately. Debussy did experiment with using the modes, he's impressionistic, so the impression you'd get from a mode would probably be ancient, medieval times. Figure 13.8 is images 1, reflections in water. I said he was fascinated by floating things, clouds, water, the kind of the way things float on water. I think this is the funniest thing. If you look at the top of page 376, this one is Debussy, a piece, it's a homage to Rameau, an ancient composer. So Debussy's using a mode as a kind of a homage. But take a look at it. You've got 5 sharps in the key signature, but notice every time an E pops up, it's an E sharp. So, in other words, if we add one more sharp, we've got 6 sharps, which would be the key of F sharp major, if it were major. But the tonic pitch is G sharp. So do you remember the memory aid yesterday? So think of the key of F sharp major. So G sharp is what to what? And that would tell us what mode we're in.
Second.
It was re to re. So this is
Dorian.
Dorian, yes. Okay, now flip it back a page. It says the descending Dorian scale, he gives it to you. But what I like about it is obvious. I don't really think it's obvious, but he means if you're looking for modes, it's obvious because there's always an E sharp there. Let me mention this, since we talked about modes. There are two schools of thoughts for the key signatures when you're writing a modal piece, and they're both valid. Here's one. I'm writing a piece in G Mixolydian, so I end on this chord, but because G Mixolydian has no sharps and flats, I use no sharps and flats in the key signature. Now, the drawback to that is you get people who don't know theory very well, and they say, they made a mistake, they forgot to put the F sharp there. Every piece I've ever seen that ends in a G major triad, there's an F sharp there. They just forgot to put it there. So that's for the people who are not very educated. But so sometimes composers actually do this. They put that key signature, but when it comes time for the chord to change, they do that. And so you see a piece that looks like it's in G major, but all the Fs have a natural sign in front of it. So that seems like a waste of time. However, what that does is it's easier for people who know major and minor keys to figure out where do is. So they feel better about ending on a G triad. So in this case, this is what Debussy did. He wrote in the key signature of G sharp minor, so that when you end on that G sharp minor triad, the key signature makes it look like it's a tonic triad. But every E in the piece has a sharp in front of it. So the other way, he could have written it with the key signature of F sharp major, could have added the E sharp in the key signature, but then you would have gotten people say, well, he made a mistake. That's the key signature for D sharp minor. He just doesn't know his sharps. But either way, you'll see them pretty equally done. And either way, you get somebody complaining. I remember hearing quite a few students, well, why do they have the F sharp in the key signature? They just keep making F natural. Wouldn't it make more sense to make it F natural? But then if you make it the key of C, then everybody, well, he made a mistake. This is obviously G, and he forgot to put the sharps in. So it doesn't matter. Either way, somebody will complain. But just so you know, you have those two options when you're writing modal. Bottom of page 376, here's a Phrygian mode. Now, is the key signature telling us it's Phrygian, or is he using a key signature of something else and adding an accidental?
Well, he has an A flat.
Yes, every time an A comes up, it's flat. So that tells us if every time the A comes up, it's A flat, that's part of the tonality. So now we move that flat into the key signature. And we've got three flats, which would be the key of E flat major. And tonality that starts on a G. So that would be a G Phrygian. I know it is confusing. Okay, on page 377, they talk about chords and harmonic progressions. Conventional chords. Debussy looked at triads and said, could I do something interesting with triads that other people have not done before? And he didn't invent this stuff, he just experimented with it. But they mentioned something called planing or pandiatonicism. The best way I can explain this is, if you remember when we talked about consecutive first inversion triads, those are very hard to write, SATB, but I said if you go to a three-part harmony, then it's very easy. You can just have parallel first inversion triads all over the place. And